Pine Hollow, Pennsylvania, was the kind of place where time seemed to stand still. One main street, lined with mom-and-pop shops, 3 churches that drew crowds every Sunday, and a web of expectations that held everyone in place. Growing up there, I learned early on where I stood in the Kendrick family. I'm Mara, and at 32, I can still feel the weight of those childhood years, the ones that shaped me into the woman standing at this baby shower, hiding a secret. Back then, I was the odd one out, the girl with big dreams that didn't fit the mold. My sister, Lila Thornton, 3 years younger at 30, was the golden child. She had this effortless charm, a smile that could light up a room, and a way of pleasing everyone, especially our mother, Beatrice. Lila was the one who followed the rules, who fit perfectly into Pine Hollow's vision of what a daughter should be. She'd twirl in her dance recital costumes, and Beatrice would beam, stitching sequins late into the night. When Lila brought home B's on her report card, the kitchen filled with the smell of fresh-baked cookies, her favorite kind, chocolate chip, warm and gooey. Me? I'd come home with straight A's, clutching my math trophy or my essay award, and Beatrice would offer a distracted, "That's nice, Mara," before turning back to Lila's latest achievement. I'd sit at the dinner table, my accomplishments feeling like whispers against Lila's spotlight. It wasn't that Beatrice didn't love me, it's just that her love for Lila seemed to take up all the air in the room. Pine Hollow had a way of magnifying those differences, with neighbors and teachers always praising Lila's sweetness, her grace, her perfect fit in their small-town world. I was the ambitious one, the one who read marketing books under the covers, who dreamed of cities far beyond our little street. But in Pine Hollow, ambition was a strange thing, especially for a girl. It was like I was speaking a language no one understood, and the more I tried to share it, the more I felt like I was fading into the background. My father, Harold Kendrick, was different. He saw me, really saw me, in a way no one else did. He was a quiet man, with kind eyes and a patient smile that made you feel like you were enough. When I was a kid, he'd slip into my room after dinner, when Beatrice was busy planning Lila's next recital or helping her with homework. He'd bring me small gifts, a bookmark with a motivational quote, a notebook for my ideas, and once, when I was 13, a second-hand camera after I'd mentioned wanting to capture the world through a lens. "Don't let anyone dim your fire, Mara," he'd whisper, his voice steady and warm, like he knew the battles I was fighting, even if I couldn't name them yet. Those moments were my lifeline, the proof that someone believed in my dreams. But 8 years ago, when I was 24, Harold had a heart attack. It was sudden, brutal, like the ground vanishing beneath me. One day he was there, sneaking me a wink across the dinner table, the next, he was gone. His absence left a hole in our family, but it hit me hardest. Beatrice and Lila clung to each other, their grief a shared language I couldn't speak. At his funeral, I stood a little apart, feeling like an intruder in my own family's sorrow. Beatrice threw herself into Lila's life, her engagement, her job at the local school, while I was left to carry my grief alone. Harold's death didn't just take my father, it took my ally, the one person who made me feel like my ambitions weren't a betrayal of where we came from. I'd lie awake at night, staring at that old camera, wondering how to keep my fire burning without him. A few weeks after the funeral, I found something that changed everything, though I didn't know it then. I was sorting through Harold's things in the attic, looking for pieces of him to hold on to, when I found a sealed envelope tucked inside an old book. It was addressed to me, in his familiar, slanted handwriting. To Mara, it said, "Nothing more." My heart raced as I held it, this fragile piece of him, but I couldn't bring myself to open it. The grief was too raw, too heavy, and I was afraid of what it might say, afraid it would break me all over again. What if it was an apology for leaving too soon? What if it held a truth about our family I wasn't ready to face? I slipped it into my bag, telling myself I'd read it later, when I was stronger. But days turned into weeks, then years, and the letter stayed unopened, a secret I carried alongside the life I was building away from Pine Hollow. I moved to Chicago not long after, chasing a marketing job that felt like a lifeline. That letter, though, it's been with me ever since, tucked in my purse even now, at Lila's baby shower. I've wondered if it holds a clue to why things turned out this way, why Beatrice always seemed to choose Lila over me, why I felt like I had to hide who I became. Sometimes, I'd hold it late at night, tracing his handwriting, feeling him close but too scared to break the seal. What if it confirms everything I've feared, that I was never enough for this family? Or worse, what if it asks me to do something I'm not ready for, like forgive them, or fight for a place among them? Today, standing here, surrounded by people who think they know me, that letter feels heavier than ever. It's like Harold still whispering, urging me to stand tall, but I don't know if I'm ready to listen. Maybe it holds the key to why I've kept my own family a secret, my husband, my daughter, the life I've built. Maybe it's time to find out. When I left Pine Hollow at 26, Chicago felt like a lifeline, a city big enough to hold the dreams I'd kept tucked away. I'm Mara Kendrick, and that move was my escape from a town that never quite saw me. I landed a marketing job at a top firm, one of those glass tower places where ambition wasn't a dirty word. The work was grueling, but it lit something inside me, a fire I hadn't felt since my dad, Harold, used to slip me those secret gifts, like he knew I was meant for more. Chicago was all sharp edges and endless possibility, from the skyline glittering against Lake Michigan to the hum of a city that never slowed down. I found a tiny apartment overlooking the lake, its waves a constant reminder that I was building something new, something mine. A few years in, I met Gideon Ellis at a marketing conference. He was 34, a graphic designer with a quiet confidence and eyes that seemed to see right through my defenses. We clicked instantly, swapping ideas over coffee, then late-night dinners, then dreams. Together, we founded Kendrick and Ellis Creative, our own agency where my strategy and his artistry blended into something special. It wasn't just a business, it was a life we were crafting, piece by piece, in a city that felt like it could hold all of us. That apartment by the lake became our sanctuary, a place where I could finally breathe, where I wasn't the odd one out anymore. I'd stand by the window at night, watching the city lights dance on the water, feeling like I'd finally found my place. But even as I built this new world, Pine Hollow lingered in the back of my mind, my mother Beatrice, my sister Lila, their voices still echoing, judging the life I'd chosen. I wanted to share my successes, to tell them about the agency, the clients we landed, the way Chicago made me feel alive. But every time I thought about picking up the phone, I'd remember Beatrice's distracted "that's nice, Mara," or Lila's polite but distant smile. So I kept it to myself, letting the distance between us grow, building my life in secret, brick by brick, hoping one day they'd understand. It was in Chicago that Gideon and I fell in love, the kind of love that sneaks up on you, steady and sure. One spring evening, under the blooming cherry trees of the Chicago Botanic Garden, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. It wasn't planned, just a moment that felt right, surrounded by flowers and the quiet hum of the city in the distance. We said our vows in that same garden, a small ceremony with just a few friends, no fanfare, no Pine Hollow eyes to judge us. It was perfect, ours, a promise we made to each other without needing anyone else's approval. A year later, we welcomed our daughter, Nora, who's 5 now. She came into the world with Gideon's bright eyes and a laugh that could melt the coldest day. Raising her in our Lake Michigan apartment, I felt a joy I'd never known, but also a pang of guilt. I wanted to tell my family, to share Nora's first smile, her first steps, the way she'd curl up in my arms after a long day. But the thought of calling home, of hearing Beatrice change the subject to Lila's latest milestone, stopped me cold. So I sent vague Christmas cards instead, pictures of Chicago landmarks, never us, never Nora. It was easier to hide than to face their dismissal again. Each card I mailed felt like a lie, but also a shield, protecting my little family from the judgment I'd grown up with. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd find the right moment to tell them, but the years slipped by, and the secret grew heavier. Nora would ask about her grandma, pointing to the one photo I kept of Beatrice, and I'd dodge the question, promising we'd visit someday. That someday never came, and the weight of it pressed harder on my heart, a quiet ache I carried alongside the love I had for Gideon and Nora. I tried to tell them, you know. More than once, I picked up the phone, my fingers trembling, ready to share my life. The first time was when Gideon proposed. I called Beatrice, my heart pounding with excitement, ready to tell her I'd found someone who saw me, who loved me for all I was. But before I could get the words out, she cut in, gushing about Lila's engagement to her high school sweetheart, how they were planning a big wedding in Pine Hollow. "Isn't it wonderful, Mara?" she said, and I swallowed my news, muttering something vague before hanging up. It hurt, that dismissal, like I was still the kid whose A's didn't matter. I tried again when Nora was born. I sent an email with her photo, her tiny hand curled around my finger, hoping Beatrice would see what I'd built. Her reply was 2 lines, "She's cute. Lila's thinking of starting a family soon." That was it. No questions, no warmth, just a pivot back to Lila. Each time I reached out, it felt like shouting into a void, and I stopped trying. The silence grew easier than the rejection. But Gideon, he didn't understand why I kept our family a secret. "We can't keep Nora hidden forever," he'd say, his voice tight with frustration. "She deserves to know her grandmother, her aunt. And I'm tired of pretending we don't exist." His words stung because they were true. Last month, he gave me an ultimatum, tell them at Lila's baby shower, or he'd do it himself. It wasn't just about Nora anymore, it was about us, about the strain my silence was putting on our marriage. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling of our apartment, the lake's reflection flickering outside, wondering if I was protecting my family or betraying them. I'd think about that unopened letter from my dad, still tucked in my purse, and wonder if it held the courage I needed to face Pine Hollow again. Today, at this baby shower, with Gideon's text burning in my mind, I know the secret's about to break. I'm scared they'll reject us, scared they'll judge Nora, scared I'll lose what little connection I have left. But I'm more scared of what happens if I keep hiding, if I let this silence tear us apart. Stepping into the Pine Hollow Community Center feels like walking back into a life I thought I'd left behind. I'm Mara Kendrick, 32, standing here at my sister Lila's baby shower, 6 months pregnant but hiding it under a loose jacket. The room's a sea of pink balloons and chatter, but I'm already bracing myself. I haven't been back in 6 years, and the air feels thick with unspoken judgments. My mother, Beatrice, spots me first. She's 60 now, her hair grayer but her smile still reserved for Lila. "Mara, you made it," she says, her voice polite but distant, like I'm a guest who showed up late. Then comes the jab, sharp and casual, "You're 32, still no husband? Time's ticking, you know." I force a smile, my hand instinctively resting on my hidden belly, where my own child is growing. The words sting, not because they're new, but because they're so familiar. Beatrice has always measured me against Lila, who's glowing across the room in her maternity dress, 30 and radiant, the perfect daughter Pine Hollow adores. Lila catches my eye and waves me over, her smile warm but tinged with pity. "Must be nice, Mara," she says, her voice light but cutting, "no pregnancy weight to worry about, just that big city freedom." The guests around her chuckle, and I feel my face burn. They don't know about Nora, my 5-year-old, or Gideon, my husband, or the life I've built. They see what they've always seen, Mara, the career woman who ran off and never settled down. Then there's Daphne, Lila's best friend since high school, organizing the gift table with a smirk. "Didn't think you'd show, Mara," she says, loud enough for others to hear. "Chicago keeping you too busy for family?" Her words land like a slap, and I grip my purse tighter, feeling the weight of my father's unopened letter inside. I want to tell them they're wrong, that I have a family, a life, a love they can't imagine. But the words catch in my throat, and I stand there, silent, feeling like that kid again, invisible in my own home. Every glance, every comment, reminds me why I stayed away, why I kept my truth hidden. I'm here for Lila, for a chance to bridge the gap, but it's starting to feel like a mistake. The gift table is piled high with pastel-wrapped boxes, and I place my offering there, a handcrafted silver bracelet I spent weeks choosing for Lila's baby, something unique, like the love I want to give. I watch as Daphne barely glances at it, sliding it aside to make room for a quilt someone else brought, a colorful patchwork that gets oohs and ahs from the crowd. "Isn't that thoughtful?" Daphne says, not about my gift, but the quilt. My bracelet sits ignored, a small, gleaming thing lost in the shuffle, and it feels like a metaphor for me and this family. The games start, and I'm pulled in, despite the knot in my stomach. First, it's guessing Lila's belly size with a ribbon. I cut mine too short, underestimating, and the room erupts in laughter. "Mara, you're hopeless," someone calls out, and I try to laugh along, but it feels hollow. Then comes Who Knows Mommy Best, a quiz about Lila's pregnancy, her cravings, her due date, her favorite baby names. I fumble every answer, my mind blank. Lila sighs, her voice soft but pointed, "Guess that's what happens when you visit once every 6 years." The room laughs again, and I feel the heat rising in my cheeks. I want to say I've been busy building a life, raising a daughter, running a business, but the words won't come. Each wrong answer, each chuckle, chips away at me, reminding me how out of place I am. I glance at Beatrice, hoping for a nod, a sign she sees my effort, but she's busy fussing over Lila, adjusting her sash, whispering something that makes Lila smile. I'm not part of that moment, and it hurts more than I expected. My hand slips into my purse, brushing against Harold's letter, and I wonder if he'd be disappointed in me for staying silent, for letting them think I'm still the Mara they've written off. The games go on, but I'm barely present, my mind caught between the past and the secret I'm carrying, the one that's about to change everything. Then I hear it, Daphne's voice, low but sharp, cutting through the chatter. Mara thinks she's too good for Pine Hollow, she whispers to a group of guests nearby, their heads nodding in agreement. Always was a little high and mighty, wasn't she? Off in Chicago, probably living some fancy life while Lila's here, starting a family the right way. My breath catches, and I freeze, pretending I didn't hear, but the words burn. They're not just wrong, they're cruel, painting me as the outsider I've fought so hard not to be. I want to turn around, to tell them about Kendrick and Ellis Creative, about Nora's laugh, about Gideon's love, about the baby growing inside me. But the weight of their judgment, their assumptions, pins me in place. I slip my hand into my purse again, finding that unopened letter from my dad, its edges worn from years of carrying it. I've never read it, too afraid of what it might say, but right now, I'm desperate for his voice, for the strength he always gave me. I think about opening it, right here in this crowded room, letting his words guide me, tell me how to stand up to this. What if it says what I've always feared, that I'm not enough? Or what if it tells me to fight, to claim my place, to stop hiding? My fingers tremble, tracing his handwriting, and I'm so close to tearing it open, to finding the courage I need. But I hesitate, the fear creeping in again. What if it changes nothing? What if they still see me as the girl who doesn't belong? Daphne's whisper echoes in my head, and I feel the urge to leave, to walk out and never come back. But Gideon's text from earlier burns in my mind, we need to tell them today, or I'm done hiding. I think of Nora, of the life we've built, and I know I can't run. Not this time. That letter, my dad's last words to me, feels like a lifeline, but I'm not sure I'm ready to grab it. All I know is I'm standing on the edge, and something's about to break. Walking into the Pine Hollow Community Center feels like stepping into a memory I've spent years trying to outrun. I'm Mara Kendrick, 32, 6 months pregnant, but nobody here knows that. My jacket's loose, carefully chosen to hide the curve of my belly, the secret I've carried for so long. The room's alive with pink balloons, streamers dangling like promises of joy, but to me, it's a minefield. I haven't set foot in Pine Hollow in 6 years, and the weight of that absence presses down on me. My mother, Beatrice, spots me first, her gray hair catching the light as she weaves through the crowd. She's 60 now, but her eyes still carry that familiar mix of love and expectation, reserved mostly for my sister, Lila. "Mara, you made it," she says, her voice polite but cool, like I'm a distant cousin, not her daughter. Then, almost as an afterthought, she adds, "You're 32, still no husband?" Time's slipping away, you know. Her words slice through me, sharp and familiar, echoing the judgments I grew up with. I force a smile, my hand brushing my stomach, where my baby's heartbeat reminds me of the life I built. But here, I'm still the Mara they've always seen, ambitious, single, out of place. Lila, radiant at 30 in her flowing maternity dress, catches my eye from across the room. She waves me over, her smile warm but tinged with something else, pity, maybe. "Must be nice, Mara," she says, her voice light but pointed, "no pregnancy weight to drag you down, just that big city freedom you love." The women around her laugh softly, and I feel my cheeks burn. They don't know about Gideon, my husband, or Nora, my daughter, or the child I'm carrying. They see the version of me they've always believed in, the career woman who chose Chicago over family. Then there's Daphne, Lila's best friend, all sharp edges and sharper words. She's arranging gifts, her smirk unmistakable as she looks me up and down. "Didn't think you'd show, Mara," she says, loud enough for others to turn. "Chicago keeping you too busy for us small-town folk?" The jab lands like a punch, and I grip my purse, feeling the outline of my father's unopened letter inside. I want to tell them they're wrong, that I've built a life they can't imagine, but my voice stays trapped. I'm back in Pine Hollow, and it's like I never left, still the odd one out, still invisible. The gift table is a mountain of pastel packages, and I set my offering down carefully, a handcrafted silver bracelet, delicate and thoughtful, chosen for Lila's baby after weeks of searching. It's a piece of me, a gesture I hoped might bridge the gap between us. But Daphne barely glances at it, sliding it aside to make room for a quilt, its bright patches drawing gasps and coos from the crowd. "Now that's a gift," she says, not about my bracelet, but the quilt, and the dismissal stings. My little silver offering sits there, overlooked, gleaming faintly like a promise no one cares to keep. It's not just a bracelet, it's me, pushed aside again. The games start, and I'm pulled in, even though my stomach's in knots. First, we're guessing Lila's belly size with ribbons. I cut mine too short, misjudging, and the room erupts in laughter. "Mara, you're hopeless," someone calls, and I try to laugh with them, but it feels like I'm choking. Then comes Who Knows Mommy Best, a quiz about Lila's pregnancy, her cravings for pickles, her due date in June, her love for the name Elise. I get every answer wrong, my mind blank, my heart sinking with each missed question. Lila sighs, her voice soft but cutting. "Guess that's what happens when you visit once every 6 years." The laughter that follows isn't cruel, but it's a blade all the same, slicing through the fragile hope I brought with me. I glance at Beatrice, searching for a flicker of understanding, but she's fussing over Lila, adjusting her sash, whispering something that makes Lila smile. I'm not part of that moment, and the exclusion aches, a familiar pain I thought I'd outgrown. My hand slips into my purse, brushing against Harold's letter, and I wonder what he'd think of me now, standing here, letting them define me. These games, these moments, they're not just fun, they're a reminder of how far I've drifted, how little they know me. I came here to reconnect, to show them I'm more than their assumptions, but every laugh, every sigh, makes me feel smaller, like I'm disappearing all over again. Then I hear it, Daphne's voice, low and venomous, slicing through the chatter like a knife. Mara thinks she's too good for Pine Hollow, she whispers to a cluster of guests, their heads nodding, their eyes darting toward me. Always was a little high and mighty, wasn't she? Off in Chicago, probably living some glamorous life while Lila's here, doing things the right way, starting a real family. My breath catches, and I freeze, pretending I didn't hear, but her words sear into me. They're not just wrong, they're cruel, twisting my choices into something selfish, something shameful. I want to turn around, to shout that I have a family, a daughter with Gideon's eyes, a business I built from nothing, a baby on the way. But the weight of their judgment holds me still, my heart pounding. I slip my hand into my purse, finding that unopened letter from my dad, its edges soft from years of carrying it. I've never opened it, too afraid of what it might say, too afraid it might confirm I was never enough. But right now, in this room full of whispers and laughs, I'm desperate for his voice, for the strength he always gave me. I think about tearing it open, letting his words pour out, telling me to stand tall, to fight back. What if it holds the courage I need to face them? What if it tells me to walk away instead? My fingers tremble, tracing his handwriting, and I'm so close to breaking the seal, to letting his words guide me through this moment. But I hesitate, fear creeping in like a shadow. What if it changes nothing? What if they still see me as the outsider, the one who doesn't belong? Daphne's words echo, and I feel the urge to leave, to walk out and never look back. But Gideon's text from earlier burns in my mind, we need to tell them today, or I'm done hiding. I think of Nora, her innocent questions about her grandma, and I know running isn't an option. Not anymore. That letter feels like a lifeline, a piece of my dad urging me forward, but I'm not sure I'm ready to face what's inside, or the truth I'm about to reveal. The air in the Pine Hollow Community Center feels like it's holding its breath. I'm Mara Kendrick, 32, standing here at my sister Lila's baby shower, my heart pounding so loud I'm sure everyone can hear it. My jacket's still zipped up, hiding the 6-month swell of my pregnancy, but my resolve is fraying. Daphne's whispers, Lila's pitying smile, my mother Beatrice's casual jabs, they've all piled up, each one a weight I've carried for years. I'm ready to walk out, to leave this place and never look back, when the doorbell rings. It's a sharp, clear sound, cutting through the chatter like a knife. The room falls silent, every head turning toward the door. I know who it is before I see them. My husband, Gideon, steps in, his broad shoulders filling the doorway, his face calm but resolute. Beside him is our daughter, Nora, 5 years old, her yellow dress bright against the pastel haze of the room. She clutches his hand, her eyes wide, curious, taking in the crowd. My breath catches, and for a moment, I can't move. This is it, the moment I've dreaded and needed all at once. I step forward, my voice trembling but steady, and I say the words I've held back for 6 years. This is my husband, Gideon Ellis, and our daughter, Nora. Oh, and I'm pregnant. The room gasps, a collective intake of breath that feels like the world shifting. Lila's face crumples, tears welling up, her hand flying to her mouth. Beatrice freezes, her eyes wide, like she's seeing me for the first time. Daphne's smirk vanishes, replaced by shock. The guests murmur, their whispers a low hum, but I don't care. I unzip my jacket, letting it fall open to reveal my baby bump, and the truth feels like a weight lifting, like I can finally breathe. Nora looks up at me, confused but smiling, and Gideon's hand brushes mine, a silent anchor. I've kept them hidden for so long, protecting them from Pine Hollow's judgment, but now they're here, real, undeniable. The room feels smaller, the air thicker, and I know there's no going back. This is my family, my truth, and I'm done hiding it. But the silence doesn't last. Beatrice steps forward, her voice sharp with disbelief. Mara, what is this? You've been married? You have a child? There's hurt in her eyes, but also something else, anger, maybe, or betrayal. Lila's crying now, her voice breaking as she says, "Why didn't you tell us? All this time, you kept this from me?" The accusation stings, but it also lights something inside me, a fire I've kept buried too long. I tried, I say, my voice low but firm, each word a release. Every time I reached out, you dismissed me. My degree from Chicago, my job, my life, none of it mattered next to Lila's milestones. I turned to Beatrice, the years of hurt spilling out. When I got my scholarship, you complained about moving costs. When I started my agency, you said it wouldn't last. When I tried to tell you about Gideon, about Nora, you changed the subject to Lila's wedding, Lila's job, Lila's everything. My voice shakes, but I keep going. I sent emails, left voicemails, even a photo of Nora when she was born. You ignored them, or worse, you brushed them off with two-line replies about Lila's plans. Beatrice opens her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. No, Mom, you don't get to rewrite this. I called after Nora's first birthday, and you didn't even ask her name. You were too busy planning Lila's engagement party. Lila's sobs grow louder, and I turn to her, my heart aching but resolute. I wanted you to know, Lila. I wanted you to meet your niece, to be part of our lives. But every time I tried, it was like shouting into a void. You were the golden child, and I was the one who didn't fit. The room is still, the guests' murmurs gone quiet, and I feel exposed, raw, but also free. I've spent years swallowing my truth to keep the peace, to avoid this moment, but now it's here, and I'm not backing down. Gideon squeezes my hand, and Nora tugs at my sleeve, her small presence grounding me. This isn't just about me anymore, it's about them, about the family I've built, the family they deserve to know. Then I reach into my purse, my fingers finding the worn edges of the letter I've carried for 8 years. It's from my dad, Harold, sealed since his death, a piece of him I've been too afraid to face. But now, with the room watching, with Gideon and Nora beside me, I feel his strength urging me on. There's something else, I say, my voice softer now, trembling with the weight of what I'm about to do. I hold up the envelope, his handwriting stark against the faded paper. Dad left this for me, and I've never opened it. I was too scared it'd break me, or confirm what I've always feared, that I wasn't enough. My hands shake as I tear it open, the sound sharp in the quiet room. I unfold the letter and read aloud, my voice catching, Mara, I see your mother's favoritism, and it breaks my heart. You're my dreamer, my fire. Stand tall in your truth, no matter what they think. The words hit like a wave, his love washing over me, steadying me. I look up, tears in my eyes, and see Beatrice's face soften, her own tears falling. Lila's still crying, but there's something new in her eyes, regret, maybe understanding. Nora tugs at my sleeve again, her voice a whisper, Mommy, why's everyone staring? Her innocence cuts through the tension, a reminder of what's at stake. I kneel down, smiling through my tears, and say, they're just surprised, sweetheart. They're meeting you for the first time. The letter feels like a lifeline, my dad's voice giving me the courage I've needed all these years. I stand up, facing Beatrice and Lila, and say, this is who I am. I've built a life, a family, and I'm done pretending it's less than Lila's. Dad saw me, and I need you to see me too. The room is silent, but it's a different silence now, not heavy with judgment, but open, waiting, like the first step towards something new. The silence in the Pine Hollow Community Center is heavy, like the moment after a storm breaks. I'm Mara Kendrick, 32, standing here with my husband Gideon and our daughter Nora, my baby bump finally revealed, my truth laid bare. I've just read my father's letter, his words still echoing in my heart, stand tall in your truth. The room is watching, waiting, and I feel exposed but anchored by Gideon's hand in mine and Nora's curious gaze. My mother, Beatrice, steps forward, her face softer than I've ever seen it. Her eyes, usually so quick to look past me, are wet with tears. Mara, she says, her voice cracking, I didn't know how much I hurt you. You reminded me so much of Harold, his fire, his dreams, and after he died, I couldn't face it. I couldn't face you. Her admission hits me like a wave, not painful but cleansing. For years, I thought she didn't see me because I wasn't enough, but now I hear the truth. Her grief for my dad, Harold, built a wall between us. She favored Lila because Lila was safe, predictable, a daughter who stayed in Pine Hollow's lines. I pushed you away, Beatrice continues, her voice barely above a whisper, because seeing you felt like losing him all over again. I'm so sorry, Mara. Her apology is raw, unguarded, and it cracks something open in me, a hope I'd buried long ago. Lila, still tearful, steps closer, her maternity dress catching the light. She's 30, the sister I've always measured myself against, but now her face is open, vulnerable. I was jealous of you, Mara, she says, her voice trembling. Your independence, your courage to leave, to build a life in Chicago, I envied that freedom. I thought you had it all figured out, while I was just trying to keep up with what everyone here expected. Her words stun me. Lila, the golden child, jealous of me? It's like seeing her for the first time, not as my rival but as someone carrying her own weight. I feel the years of resentment soften, not gone but shifting, making room for something new. Beatrice reaches for my hand, and I let her take it, her touch warm and unfamiliar. I want to know you, Mara, she says. I want to know your family. Her eyes flicker to Nora, and I see a grandmother's love starting to take shape. The room feels quieter now, the tension easing, like we're all exhaling together. Nora, my 5-year-old, breaks the moment with her small voice, asking Gideon if she can see the baby. Lila smiles through her tears and kneels down, introducing Nora to her cousin, Elise, Lila's newborn, barely a month old. She's so tiny, Nora whispers, her eyes wide with wonder, and I feel my heart swell. This is what I wanted, for Nora to have a family, to know her roots, even if it took me years to find the courage. Lila looks up at me, her expression softer now. She's beautiful, Mara, she says, and it's not just about Nora, it's about us, about starting over. I take a breath and say, come to Chicago. Meet our life there, Nora, Gideon, me, the new baby. Let's try this again. Lila nods, a small smile breaking through, and Beatrice squeezes my hand, a silent promise. Aunt Vivian, always the quiet observer, steps in with a knowing smile. How about a cupcake, Nora, she says, leading my daughter to the dessert table, her warmth a bridge between the past and this fragile new beginning. I watch them go, Nora's yellow dress bright against the pastel room, and I feel something shift inside me. It's not perfect, not healed, but it's a start. For the first time, I see a path forward, one where my family, Gideon, Nora, the baby, and now maybe Beatrice and Lila, can exist together. The distance between Pine Hollow and Chicago doesn't feel so vast anymore. I came here expecting judgment, but I'm finding something else, a chance to rebuild, to let Nora know her grandmother, her aunt, her cousin. It's messy, like family always is, but it's real, and I'm holding on to it. Beatrice speaks again, her voice steadier now, like she's unearthing a memory she's held close. Your father used to say, Mara's our dreamer, she'll outshine us all. I didn't listen then, too caught up in my own grief, but I hear him now. Her words wrap around me, a piece of Harold I didn't know I needed. It's like he's here, his kind eyes urging me to keep going. Lila wipes her tears and says, let's take a family photo when we visit you in Chicago, by that big shiny sculpture, the bean. All of us together, you, Gideon, Nora, Elise, Mom. Her suggestion catches me off guard, but it feels right, a symbol of unity, of bending toward each other like the reflections in Cloudgate. I nod, my throat tight. I'd like that, I say, and I mean it. For years, I thought family meant choosing between Pine Hollow and Chicago, between their expectations and my truth. But now, with Beatrice's apology, Lila's honesty, and the image of that photo in my mind, I see it differently. Family isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, owning the hurt, and building something new. I think of Harold's letter, his call to stand tall, and I feel him with me, proud of this moment. Nora's laughter drifts over from the dessert table, and I know this is why I came back, not just for me, but for her, for the baby I'm carrying, for the family we're becoming. It's not the end of the story, but it's a beginning, one I'm ready to step into. I'm Mara Kendrick, standing here at the end of a day I never thought I'd survive. This baby shower, with its pink balloons and small-town whispers, was supposed to be another reminder of how I didn't fit in Pine Hollow. For years, I hid my truth, my husband Gideon, my daughter Nora, the child growing inside me, because I thought my family would never see me for who I am. I carried that weight, that silence, like a stone in my heart, afraid of their judgment, afraid of being the odd one out again. But today, I spoke my truth. I stood up, unzipped my jacket, and let them see my family, my life, my love. It wasn't easy, God, it was terrifying. Beatrice's shock, Lila's tears, the gasps from the crowd, they could have broken me. But they didn't. Reading my dad's letter, hearing his voice tell me to stand tall, gave me the courage I'd lost somewhere along the way. Family's messy, imperfect, full of hurt and misunderstandings, but it's worth fighting for. I learned that today, here in this room, where I thought I'd only find rejection. Instead, I found a crack in the wall between us, a chance to rebuild. A few weeks after the baby shower, I gave birth to our son, Harold Ellis, named for my dad. Holding him, I felt a piece of my father's love come full circle, like he was there, smiling at the family I'd fought to share. Harold's tiny hand in mine, Nora's laughter, Gideon's steady presence, they're my strength, my reason for coming back to Pine Hollow, for facing the pain head-on. I used to think family meant choosing between who I was and who they wanted me to be. But now, I see it differently. Family isn't about being perfect or fitting some small-town mold. It's about showing up, raw and real, even when it hurts. Beatrice and Lila didn't just see me today, they started to understand me, to see the dreamer my dad always saw. And in that understanding, I found something I didn't expect, hope. Hope that Nora and Harold will grow up knowing their grandmother, their aunt, their cousin Elise. Hope that Chicago and Pine Hollow can meet somewhere in the middle, not as opposites but as parts of the same story. This isn't the end of the hurt, there's still work to do, still conversations to have, but it's a start. I came here expecting a fight, but I'm leaving with a family, one that's messy, flawed, and beautifully ours. If you've ever had to reveal a hard truth to your family, you know how heavy it feels, how it can sit in your chest like a secret you're afraid to name. Maybe you've stood where I stood, heart racing, wondering if speaking up would break everything or make it whole. I'm Mara, and I'm asking you to share your story in the comments below. Tell me about the moment you laid your truth bare, how it felt, what it changed. Your story matters, just like mine did today. If this hit close to home, if you felt the weight of my family's journey, hit that like button to let me know. Subscribe for more real stories about facing the hard stuff, about finding your place when the world tries to define it for you. I never thought I'd be here, connecting with my mother, my sister, in a way I hadn't since I was a kid. A few months after the baby shower, we had our first family video call. Beatrice was holding Lila's newborn, Elise, her face soft with a grandmother's love I hadn't seen before. Lila was there too, laughing as Nora showed off her favorite doll. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, a family stretching across miles, from Pine Hollow to Chicago, finding each other again. That call, that moment, reminded me why I spoke up, why I stopped hiding. Family's worth the fight, worth the fear, worth every shaky step toward truth. So share your story, join me in this messy, beautiful journey, and let's keep telling the stories that matter. Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going.